Hey, what's up? John Sonmez from simpleprogrammer.com. So, I'm going to do another book review today. This time, the book review is going to be weird. Actually, you know what? I'm in a phase of reading weird books, right? I mean, if you think about like all the book reviews I've been doing lately, I did that book review on my big my big theory of everything, and I think there was a few other weird ones in there. Anyway, so this one is extremely weird. I'm going to tell you why I read this book, which you might think, this is kind of crazy, John. There's a reason why I read this book. And there's a reason why I read a lot of strange things, or I entertain a lot of strange and bizarre ideas. So the book, let's get that out of the way here, and then you can wonder about it, is called Dianetics. It is by L. Ron Hubbard. I'm sure you've heard of this book if you've heard of Scientology. Interesting book. Not one that I thought I'd ever read. But why did I read this book? Well, so I did a book review on a book called The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. And in that, and you can check out that one, and in the comments for that video, someone basically said something to the effect of, I don't remember the exact words, but I like the 10X Rule. And I used to like Grant Cardone, but he is a Scientologist, and so it's hard to take what he says seriously, or basically infer they lose credibility, because how can someone believe such crazy stuff, right? And they said, and so basically their take on it was, I'm sort of discounting what he says, I'm not going to really follow him and pay attention to him because he's a crazy nut job, right? And I think that's probably a lot of people think that about Scientologists and Scientology. Although I'm a big fan of so I'm a big fan of Grant Cardone. I didn't know that he was a Scientologist. And Tom Cruise. I like Tom Cruise a lot. He's pretty damn awesome. So anyway, he's just a really good actor. He just really understands human nature, it seems to. And he seems like whenever I hear him talk, he seems like a really smart guy. I just like him. All right, so, you know, whatever. You don't have to like him if you don't. Top Gun was such an awesome movie. It's just, man, he was just so good in that movie. All right, so also for you guys that are, that are trying to, try to figure out like how to act, how to kind of cocky-ish, like, but not too arrogant, like, you just look at Tom Cruise in Top Gun. That's like the model of the height of what you could, never mind. Okay, let's talk about Dianetics. So anyway, what ended up happening was, I sort of took the opposite approach. So when I see someone who I respect and their ideas, or that they seem like they have a lot of wisdom, and sometimes their ideas are a little bit out there, or I find something weird that they believe, I want to investigate that. Why do I want to investigate that? I'll tell you why. Because I want to figure out what the hell would possess someone who seems to be really smart, who seems to like be extremely successful, right? Especially when it's an extremely successful person. I want to know, why would they believe something so crazy, right? There must be something there. Maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the world is wrong. Maybe there's, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that, again, don't misunderstand me here. Sometimes when I say this stuff, you guys like get all ape shit and are like, oh no, it's crazy, right? Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying Scientology is correct. I'm not saying that. But I'm also not saying that it is a crackpot idea that has no merit, okay? I believed that at one time, but I want to, whenever I encounter these things, I want to investigate for myself. Now, it doesn't mean that you might say, well, John, should you investigate every single crazy paranormal idea that's out there? No. What you should investigate is the ones that people that you highly respect, or that are highly successful, or that have some kind of attributes that you would like to model, something going for them. You should investigate the weird shit that they believe, okay? And that's because you can gain a lot from that. And I wasn't always like this. And I started, I think one of the, there's definitely a lot of books, right? If you look at my book list and some of the books I recommend, some of the books are a little bit crazy, but one of them was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. You can check out that book here. But a lot of people recommended that. And I read the first chapter of the book and I was like, very resistant, very, very much. But a lot of people that were successful that I was respecting were reading this book. And so I said, okay, let me actually give this a try. Now I'm a big fan. It actually changed my viewpoint, changed my beliefs. It shifted me, I'm not 100% agree with everything, but there was value from it. And so, again, I know that's a big, I haven't even gotten into the book review, right, about Dianetics. This could be a long one, but I'm not going to go too in depth into the book, because you should read it yourself if you want to find out. But I will give you the overview. But essentially, I think this is a more important point. Even this should just be its own video before I do the book review. But anyway, the point is this: that when you should be willing to do these things, right? And there's benefit from it, and you can grow from these things. You don't know what you don't know. This is a really important concept to understand, and you can't, think about this. Just think on this. You don't know what you don't know. That means you can't make prejudgments about it. That means you got to go and find out. And then you've got some education, right? Okay. So many people, right? And I'm emphasizing this point because I know specifically in this audience, I know that you might be one of those, because I've seen this reaction here, okay? And that's why I think this is concerning to me. Is I would like to help you if I can. I'm fallible in the same way, but I would like to help you from my experience to show you that you don't know what you don't know. And everyone thinks that they do, but they don't, okay? There's so many things that I'm wrong about right now that I don't know that I'm wrong about, right? That I don't even know that I don't know. So, Dianetics, let's talk about this. This is interesting. I finally get what Scientology is about after trying to figure it out. And it's like, is it about Xenu and extraterrestrials and planets and atomic bombs and volcanoes? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that might even be some misinformation. It maybe even be fake information that was put out by Scientology. I don't know. But that's not the point. That's not what Dianetics is about at all. Dianetics is actually, it's written in about 1950, right? So at that time, you have to understand, even really good books like How to Influence People were written from a very authoritarian, using science to back things up that doesn't really back things up, calling things that are facts that aren't really proven facts, right? That's just kind of the style of writing in the 1930s, 40s, 50s. If you read some of those classic books, you got to kind of understand that, right? There's a lot of books in that era that's just kind of how you do it. I don't know why. I would like to research and find out, but it does have that taste, that style of it. Unsubstantiated claims, right? That's what I'd call it. But there's some really good information here, some really good stuff here that is really interesting, I think. So essentially, Dianetics is this. This is the basic idea. We have a lot of mental illnesses, problems. Most of the problems that we have in our lives are psychosomatic, right? They're in our heads, and it's because of, quote, aberrations. Aberrations are what happen to us when we basically store, not quite memories, but experiences, what's happening around us whenever we're unconscious. Okay, I'm giving you the real short, succinct version of this. When we're unconscious or we're in pain, when we're in pain, we're unconscious. So everything that we do in life, everything is recorded in our consciousness. That is our rational brain. It records every sight, sound, everything is all in our memory, except for when we're unconscious and we're in pain. And when those things happen, we have this sort of engram that gets created, which is basically our body unconscious, our irrational mind, our animal mind, right, is recording at an unconscious level the events, but not through a rational mind filter. So the idea of Dianetics is this, is that all of these engrams, right, which are these recordings of things that happen when we're in pain, when we're unconscious, right, emotional pain, physical pain, sleeping, knocked unconscious, sedated, any of those things under hypnosis, those get recorded in our body as engrams, okay? Those engrams sort of mess things up. They work at a primal level. The idea is that we've got sort of lizard brains, right? And we evolved this kind of primal reaction before we had language, and it served us well because when we would get smacked by a stick and we're in pain, we make instant associations. We don't use logic. We're like, big person holding stick, bad. Fire, bad. It's dark outside, bad, right? There's tall grass here, bad. and they all get like linked together, and then when any of those like things trigger again, we go nuts and we got to get out of there because of the pain, right? Because we've associated that. That's like our irrational mind, and where Dianetics is our rational mind says, okay, it knows how to sort these things out and say, okay, cause and effect and whatnot. Not A equals A equals A equals A, right? That's what he says in there. So the idea is basically that we've all got these aberrations. A lot of them happened when we were in the womb, right, or early in childhood. We've got hundreds of these engrams, and they screw us up because when we get triggered all the time, essentially, it's basically triggered, right? It's like you have some kind of event or something that happens, and it's more complicated than what I'm explaining here, but I'm giving you the simple. And essentially, what ends up happening is that causes like an automatic reaction that's happening at a subconscious level. That's why you commit crime. That's why you feel like the psychosomatic illnesses, these pains. They're compensating. There's various reasons psychologically at a very primitive level as to why this is happening, and basically, the idea of Dianetics is that we can use, quote, an auditor, if you've heard the term auditor, and the auditor can basically go and access those engrams from the person's memory, from their file system, not from their memory, but they can get them to go to a place in time and sort of diffuse the emotional energy on those experiences, which will, if you get it cleared enough, you would become clear. If you cleared all the engrams, you would become a clear, which is sort of like a superhuman who has higher IQ, is not affected, can think logically, is not affected by all these short circuits and bad things that's happening. They're actually in full control of their faculties. They have the self-discipline of being able to be in full control of themselves, right? Okay, so that kind of stuff, that it's kind of interesting, right? Because now, engrams and all this stuff, do I think that's, I don't know. I don't think that's like, I mean, this is 1950, right? And even in the book, L. Ron Hubbard is like, well, we don't know exactly, like maybe it's not this or maybe it's not that. So he's got definitely some ideas about that. But the basic idea of like, emotions get trapped in the body, and when we re-experience and kind of diffuse these emotions and release them, that it actually makes everything clearer for us and makes our thinking clearer. And make sure my battery's good. It makes everything better in life. I've believed that for quite a while. There's things like bioenergetics. There's a lot of things that are kind of a little bit out there, but are interesting in that I've seen the effects of. So that's it. I mean, that's essentially what Scientology is. It's basically telling you that, most of the stuff you can cure, that it's psychosomatic. It makes some really bold claims that are probably unsubstantiated, right? Okay. But it does have, it's sane. It's not totally nuts. There's some parts that are a little bit weird, but it's really not that nuts, okay? And the basic idea is that it teaches you how to basically audit to be able to access these engrams and diffuse them, right? And that's it. That's the whole idea. And that's the basis of Scientology, actually, when you look at it, because Dianetics they sort of added on that and added a spiritual dimension and a few other things, but the basic idea is to restore you to the perfect mental health. That's what Dianetics and Scientology kind of, again, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Not saying this is right. Not saying it's correct. Not saying I'm a Scientologist now. Not saying that at all, right? I just want to make sure, because some of you just don't understand when I say this. But I am saying that I don't think Scientologists are total crackpots anymore. I think there's some weird stuff. I think that some of the stuff is really, really hard to believe from what I've heard. But from what I've actually studied, the Dianetic stuff, I'm not buying it 100%, but I think there's some value in there. I think L. Ron Hubbard, maybe he didn't stumble on the truth, but I think he did find a few truths that actually do work, right? I think that if you can find that repressed emotion in the body and you can release it, and there's a lot of branches of psychology, and there's a lot of kind of other kinds of religions and spiritual practices and beliefs that are kind of based around the same kind of idea, right? I was just reading a book called The Presence Process. I'll do a review on that. And I was like, holy crap, this is like the same thing as Dianetics. It's just saying it in a different way. So there's some value here, is what I'd say. So anyway, I think it's an interesting book. It's an interesting read, especially if you're a fan of psychology and you have any kind of interest in bioenergetics or these kind of ideas of emotions being trapped in the body. If you had interest in acupuncture or tapping or something like that, this would probably be something that you'd want to read. Also, if you're just curious about Scientology, like, read the book. It's not going to brainwash you, right? I'm not brainwashed because I read the book, but I'm a little bit more open-minded and a little bit more understanding. And I think if I talk to a Scientologist, I could have a better conversation with them, knowing where they're coming from, right? And I can sort of understand how applying some of these things could have helped Grant Cardone to become the person that he is and to become super successful. I think that I could see that. I can make that connection. So anyway, I don't know if I even linked to the book. I should have earlier. If I didn't, shame on me. The link should have shown up as soon as I said Dianetics. But here it is again. Obviously, it's a pretty popular book, and you can get that book. And yeah, I listened to the audio version of it, like I usually do, and I thought it was good. I think it's worth reading. It's not total trash. If it was total trash and it was garbage and it was like there's no value from this and you shouldn't read it, I would tell you. So anyway, if you like these reviews, definitely check out the playlist of all the reviews that I've been doing. I get through like 2 or 3 books a week now as I'm running like 6 hours or whatever. Anyway, check those out, and then subscribe to the channel. All right, so click the subscribe button. All right, talk to you later. Take care.